I'm Phil Heimlich, and this is your Sanity Check. Are you proud of your dad? I think most sons are. I'm certainly proud of mine. And there's so many stories that I could tell about my dad, but I wanted to talk about his experience during World War II. My dad graduated from Cornell Medical School around 1943, and he joined the Navy. The reason he joined the Navy was because he loved being on the water. But guess what? The Navy sent him on an extra hazardous mission to the Gobi Desert in China behind Japanese lines. If you know anything about a desert, it's pretty much defined by the fact that there's no water. Well, the job of my dad and the others stationed with him was to keep the people in the village on our side and not the Japanese, particularly the warlords who were very powerful. So what my dad did was he set up this little medical clinic, kind of a makeshift thing with a little operating table, a couple medicines. But none of the villagers would come to the clinic because they were all scared of Americans. Well, one day this guy comes kind of late in the afternoon, and he's carrying his 18-year-old daughter. Apparently he'd been carrying her for miles and brought her there, and my dad could see this girl was very sick. She was near death. But because he didn't have any lights in his operating room, he couldn't operate on her till the morning. Well, the morning came, he operated on her and saved her life. And what was cool is that after that, every day, he said, there was a line of people from this village wanting to see the American doctor. Let me tell you one more story. When my dad was stationed there in the Gobi Desert, there was this terrible epidemic of blindness in the area around there. No one understood why people were losing their sight. But my dad figured out that it was a disease called trichinosis spread by flies. What it does is it causes your eyelashes to turn inward, scratch your cornea, and blind you. Well, Dad didn't have much to work with, so he took some antibiotics and he mixed them with Barbasol shaving cream, and he told this whole squad of soldiers to lie on their backs. And he took a brush and he brushed the solution on their eyes. They were all yelling and screaming because it was burning them. But guess what? It cured the blindness. Fast forward 20 years after the war, my dad and my mom went back to visit China, and they actually stopped by that same village. And you know what? The people in that village still remembered the doctor who cured the blindness. Did you ever have a dream of something that you wanted your entire life? For me, it was being in Congress. Now, I was an assistant prosecutor, and then I served on city council, and I was a county commissioner, but I wanted to get to Washington. I wanted to make it in the big time. I wanted to get there and shake things up. Well, in 2005, my opportunity came because our congressman, Rob Portman, resigned to take a job in the Bush administration. Eventually, he became the United States Senator from Ohio. Now, when this position opened up, this congressional position, I was the odds-on favorite to win. I had the support of the big donors, the special interests, the conservative groups, and this district was so red that whoever won the Republican primary was going to win the general election. So I was ready to jump in. But something bothered me. Our son was 2 years old, and my wife was pregnant with our second. And I kind of asked myself, what kind of father am I going to be if I'm flying to Washington every week? And I'm kind of a driven guy, so I pretty much figured that even when I came home, I'd be spending most of my time politicking around the district. So I decided not to run. Now, I'll be honest, there's times I look back and think, wow, if I had run and won that election, I'd be in Congress now. I could be helping lead the nation. Who knows, I might have gone on to be in the Senate or run for president. But here's the thing. I have a great relationship with my two kids, ages 20 and 22. And that's probably because I spent so much time driving them to school, picking them up, attending their tennis matches, and kind of just hanging out with them. And surprising as it seems, when they are home from college, they actually seem to like spending time with me. Go figure. So when it comes to that decision I made not to run for Congress, I don't have a single regret. Do you like Taylor Swift? My daughter does. She and her mom have spent unbelievable amounts of money buying tickets to Taylor Swift concerts. And Taylor Swift has won just about every award in the music industry. I mean, she's been the Artist of the Year, Female Vocalist of the Year, one Grammy after another. But there's one award that she's never going to win, and it's actually a very prestigious award. It's the Kennedy Center Honors. Now, it used to be that there was an independent, nonpartisan board that decided who the honorees would be, but that's changed. President Trump replaced the independent board with a group of, shall we say, his fans. And guess who's chairman of that board now? Yeah, President Trump is. And do you know who's going to be hosting this year's awards? Same answer, Donald Trump. Now, finally, who do you think gets to decide who the honorees are this year? That's right, Donald Trump. And he's made it clear who's not going to get this award, what he calls wokesters. Or, to put it another way, anyone who said anything bad about Donald Trump. Now, we might just dismiss this as Trump enjoying the perks of the presidency, but it sends a message to the entertainment industry that if you cross Trump, you're never going to get this award. That's why Taylor Swift doesn't have a chance, because she endorsed Kamala Harris in last year's election. So, regardless of her talent, this is one award she'll never get. Did you hear about the brawl that occurred in downtown Cincinnati a couple weeks ago? It was pretty ugly, and it was captured on video. There was a woman who was just knocked unconscious, and then a guy who was thrown down to the ground. Everybody stomped on him. It was pretty awful. Now, here in Cincinnati, the powers that be are saying, oh, nothing to see here, folks. This is just an isolated instance. Cincinnati's a safe city. Is it? Well, let's look at the numbers. So far this year, there have been 87 homicides in this city. 87. And in fact, downtown alone, there have been 72 violent incidents this year. And remember, we still got 5 months to go. I find it hard to believe that anyone would consider this some kind of a success. Which brings us now to President Trump's decision to flood the streets of Washington with federal officers. He's essentially taken over the Washington, D.C. police. Now, I'm going to give him credit because he has drawn attention to an important issue, which is violent crime in our inner cities. There's a lot of people who don't want to talk about it because they're afraid of being labeled racist. You might remember when the George Floyd protests turned violent, Trump also kind of spoke out pretty strongly against that, and I agree with him. I have no problem with Trump sending federal cops to patrol the streets of Washington, D.C., as long as he does it in red states as well as blue states. But I have a question for President Trump. If you're so opposed to violent crime, why did you free 1,500 criminals who were locked up for having attacked the Capitol on January 6, 2021? There were 150 police officers that were injured in that attack. And many of those guys that you freed are white supremacists or members of gangs. I guess we care about violent crime unless the criminal is wearing a Trump t-shirt. Do you have a BFF? From what I understand, that means best friends forever. Do you know that Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump have a BFF? Well, actually, it's each other. We saw that for the first time back in 2018. Now, if you recall, all of our intelligence agencies agreed that Russia had interfered in the 2016 election. So there was this summit in Helsinki of Trump and Putin, and Trump said that Putin told him that he didn't interfere in that election. And you know what Trump said? He said he believes him. Believed him over our own intelligence agencies. Well, let's see how this BFF relationship works out in Ukraine, because, as you know, Russia invaded Ukraine. But what Donald Trump says is that actually Ukraine started the war. Now, that's kind of hard to figure out because we have videos of thousands of Russian troops pouring over the border. Now, the position of Ukraine and our European allies is aggression cannot be rewarded, which means that Russia needs to give back the territory that they invaded. But see, Putin and his friend Trump, they don't see it that way. See, in their view, if the strong conquer the weak, they get to keep the spoils. And what Trump says is he doesn't really care whether Russia keeps the land it invaded, he just wants peace. Kind of reminds me of 1938 when the Prime Minister of England, Neville Chamberlain, he wanted peace, so he cut this deal with Hitler and he basically let Hitler keep Czechoslovakia in return for Hitler's promise that he wouldn't invade any other countries. So I think we know how that turned out. Now, what it comes down to between these two BFFs is that Trump and Putin have one special thing in common. They have no moral compass. In their view, there's no moral accountability. There's no right and wrong. If you invade your neighbor, you get to keep what you conquered. There's no moral accountability. No wonder these two get along so well. This has been your Sanity Check with Phil Heimlich.